How's it going, everybody? You're listening and watching to another episode of the Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. Trying to change up the intros and stuff a little bit. The lighting is not my fault. This is natural lighting. I don't have the best shade, so if I look super pale, that's kind of it, but it's mostly the lighting. Anyways, with January coming to an end and now February, which is not only Black History Month, but of course Valentine's Day. I don't know if it's as big of a holiday to people as much, because I feel like, depending on your social circles, nobody really wants to do anything on Valentine's Day, or they plan around it because it's just jacked up prices and stuff. And I think the movie we're talking about actually is a really good way of leading into it, and that is the newest film, Companion, which stars Sophie Thatcher from movies like Boogeyman from a couple years ago, or last year's Heretic, Jack Quaid from like The Boys, The Adventures of Superman, Hunger Games, and what else? And he was in Oppenheimer actually a couple years ago as well. Just a small part, but he's getting bigger and better. And a few of other actors and stuff like that are kind of associated with like comedy and horror and stuff. This is a non-spoiler review, so we're not going to get really too much into it. I know that some of the trailers kind of revealed stuff, but we'll try and skirt around that for those of you who haven't watched them. And so if you do like the video, give us that thumbs up. We do appreciate that, along with ringing the bell for when we drop our clips and stuff. And, of course, subscribe just to join and expand our community, our outreach, if you will. So, this is a film from the creators of that movie Barbarian that came out also several years ago now, which is crazy how time flies. That was a really good movie. So if you haven't seen that yet, definitely go back and check that out. Has a very subversive plot to it that has some good twists and whatnot. So essentially, Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid are a couple, a typical meet cute story, meeting each other and then falling in love. And then they get invited to a weekend trip to a lake house, and with a bunch of mostly his friends. And then certain events happen, including a death of an important person in that group. And it just sets off a chain of events that, you can never come back from. So, romantic comedy, adventure, thriller, stuff like that. This movie had very much like bodies vibes, like what Pete Davidson was in a few years ago. And you know what? There was another movie. I don't really want to talk about it too much, so I'm not going to get into it. But once you see it, you may agree with me on that, or you may think of another movie. Byrne knows what I'm talking about. And I would say it was very well done. I didn't think, when the trailer first came out, I was like, I don't know how I feel about it. It could either be really good, really bad. This movie, the newest one coming out with Michael B. Jordan, Sinners, and there was one other trailer we were talking about, Byrne. I can't think of it, but essentially things have gotten super spoilery, particularly I feel like with Jack Quaid's movies like this one and Novocaine coming out. So I feel like the studios could be doubting, is he actually a leading actor? And honestly, I think this movie definitely plays off of it. I think he's more of a co-star in this one, where Sophie Thatcher's the lead. But overall, like I said, it's very good, hilarious in some instances, and has some really good, intense scenes, with either the violence or just, like the actions that the characters take. But Byrne, what did you think about this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bodies is probably the best comp for a movie like this, and probably something like Barbarian, like you mentioned. There's like the producer of that, the director of that movie is a producer on this one, so there are some certain similarities there where, like, at some point in the movie, things take a turn and it kind of becomes a completely different thing. But as for like what it is, like as it presents itself as a sort of like twisted sort of rom-com relationship drama type thing, it's definitely in that vein of Bodies, where a horrible like night happens and it just progressively gets worse throughout the day goes, and it has a lot of fun with the premise that it has to work with, which again we won't really dive deep into, because I feel like going into this movie as sort of not knowing as much as possible will sort of increase your enjoyment, because there are a lot of really cool things that they do here to sort of twist things or like flip things on its head to where for me it felt very unexpected, even though going in having known what this sort of movie really is about. But like you said, the performances are all really good. In particular, Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. Sophie Thatcher, who's kind of really making a name for herself in sort of that Scream Queens vein as of late, and she's particularly good in this one with the role that she has here. She has a lot to work with, and everything from the character's style to the way that she portrays her in certain moments and the way that she able to work around the things that happen in the script. I thought she did a really good job of it, much like she did with Heretic. She was one of the highlights of that movie too. And Jack Quaid sort of making a name for himself as some sort of like this bumbling, seems like a good guy on the surface, but there's something twisted there, like with his character in The Boys and in Scream that came out a few years ago. I feel like he's really making a good niche roles of himself where he seems like something on the outside, but there's something on the inside that's a little bit more twisted, a little bit more interesting there. So that's a lot of fun. And the other members of the cast were also pretty good. Lucas Gage, Harvey Guillen, from What We Do in the Shadows, have a lot of fun in the roles, and that's just kind of the word that I would use to describe this movie. It's just a lot of fun, where they really take the premise and run away with it. And for the most part, the script itself is pretty smart with how it uses these characters and puts them in certain situations and has them figure out ways to get out of it. From beginning to end, I was very much entertained by the things that happen in this movie and how the characters are interacting with each other and how they're trying to find ways to get out of the situations that they're in.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you kind of started bringing up the other cast and stuff. Like I think the cast was one of the things I appreciated the most. There are a good amount of up and coming actors in this. Again, especially with the horror genre. Like we said, Sophie Thatcher was in Boogeyman and Heretic. Heretic's not so much horror, but it's also like thrilling and stuff. Very just weird movie. Jack Quaid was in Scream 5 or just Scream from 2022, and which I loved his character in. He's definitely I hope he doesn't keep getting typecast as like a borderline incel character, because I know he can be more. So I think Novocaine is going to be a little bit different in that aspect. So I'm kind of looking forward to that one too, especially after how well he was in this one and how well the movie did. And Harvey Guillen, like you said, was in What We Do in the Shadows. He was also in this one random movie. I want to say low, like almost indie, which was Werewolves Within. I think I showed you that one. But that one wasn't a bad movie either. He played a small part in that, but he was hilarious. Kat Suri, who plays one of the group of friends, she was in that It Lives Inside movie from like 2 years ago, where it was like I forgot the I want to say Indian culture, like an Indian, it was like a demonic creature feature. So she had a lot of fun in that. And Lucas Gade from Smile 2 a few months ago killed it in that one as well. So that's why I really like that this is kind of like a smaller cast, but with a lot of influences like the horror thriller genres. So that kind of made it a little bit better. And they all showed their comedic chops. Like you said, Lucas Gage and Harvey Guillen had a lot of fun with it. They were just the funniest people on screen. And yeah, I can't really say anything more about Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. They both killed it. They played their parts well. They're definitely starting to become those actors, for me at least, where if they're in something, I will most likely go see it. So with all that being said, it's not perfect. It does have some moments I was like, it could have been a little bit better. But overall, this is going to be a 4 out of 5 because it's just so well done and so much fun. Definitely recommend seeing in either Dolby or IMAX, one or the other. I think it's playing in, just because this is one of those movies I don't think you'll regret watching. So definitely recommend this one.
Yeah, I mean, like the script is good, the directing is pretty solid. I did like the aesthetic of the movie. Definitely it takes place in a cabin in the woods, and I think it makes the use of the location really well. And in terms of like the world building, I'll say for the movie, it's very much a contained movie, but you kind of get an idea of like what's going on the outside thing just based off of what characters say, based off like the set design and like things that they like the technology that they use in the movie. It's really cool stuff when it's like, okay, the movie's not focused on that, but you can make inferences on the outer world based off of things that you see in this like one location. So I thought that was really cool too. I do agree with you that it does feel like at some points, mostly towards the end of the movie, there's certain plot conveniences that happened that kind of took me out of it or left me with like certain questions. But for the most part, it was very smart up to that point of how it was weaving in and out of situations in ways that would make sense with these characters and their decisions. So yeah, for the most part, I really, really did enjoy it. In terms of January movie, this is probably one of the better ones that we've gotten. Definitely up there with things like the Invisible Man, if that was a January release, and things like Megan. Those movies that sort of surprise you based off of you think they're not going to be that great. This one I was hoping it was good, and it turned out to be a pretty good one. So yeah, it's a 4 out of 5 for me too. Definitely recommend it. It's just definitely a good time, and you can do so much worse with January movies, and this one I'm glad to say was not one of those.
Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, I know it's kind of leading into Valentine's Day. Depending on how strong your relationship is, maybe don't watch this with them, with your significant other, just because, yeah, it could definitely cause an interesting conversation. Overall, like I said, definitely fun. I wouldn't mind seeing it again, actually, and I definitely slowed down on my rewatching of movies. I think the last one I did a lot was like Deadpool and Wolverine. So
yeah, definitely some interesting conversations that this movie brings up in terms of relationships and how certain people view them.
oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know. It depends on maybe not a new couple, but an older couple maybe. Either way, it doesn't matter. To each their own. But for those of you who did happen to catch it this weekend, please let us know what you thought about it in the comments. Would love to get your opinions on that. And yeah, now we're going into February. We got a lot more stuff coming out. So definitely looking forward to it and sharing all of you our thoughts. So until next time, everybody, stay bodacious and just keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.